Good evening, everyone. It's 5 o'clock and it's time for us to start. It's a somber evening as we are starting today, the world over. The world, what we knew, has completely changed. The pandemic, which kicked more than a year back, has left nobody untouched. The future of work, work from home, digitization, gig economy, were buzzwords, were concepts of yesterday, have today become such a quick reality at a pace which is unimaginable. All of this has impacted the young as they were getting ready to step out into the world. It has left anxious parents, worried youngsters, teachers, and faculty members around the world grappling with not only the academic curriculum, but to ensure their students are ready for the workforce. Organizations, on the other hand, especially our panelists today who lead HR across their organizations, have become busy handling not only business as usual functions, but also employee welfare, which is at its peak today. What is the best way forward to respond, to prepare for this unprecedented challenge? To help us understand this world today and what we should do to understand it in a little better way, to cope up with it, we have a very interesting panel, which I will allow our Senior Dean, Professor Bibek Banerjee, who will be today's lead in the conversation, to introduce us to. Let me just introduce warmly our senior leader for today. Professor Bibek Banerjee is the Senior Dean for Strategic Initiatives. He is also the Dean for School of Management and Entrepreneurship, Shiv Nadar University. He holds his PhD and MS degree from Purdue University and his BSc honors from Calcutta University. Vivek, of course, in his illustrious career, has spent a long time as a professor of marketing at IIM Ahmedabad, in fact, more than 2 decades. At IIM Ahmedabad, he created and led IIMA's successful collaboration with the Duke University for the executive education piece for that. Over his career, Dr. Banerjee has designed and delivers numerous leadership programs for large global business organizations also across sectors. He's held visiting professor positions at several international universities around the world, and he's an honorary director of the Academy of Indian Marketing. His research publications have appeared in several top-tier international academic journals. Dr. Banerjee has also been the Director General and academic mentor of the Institute of Management Technology Group, spread across Ghaziabad, Dubai, Nagpur, and Hyderabad campuses. During this stint, he led IMT Ghaziabad in becoming the 4th B school in India to secure the coveted CSP business accreditation. I now invite Professor Banerjee to lead today's conversation and introduce our panelists.
Thank you, Anubha. As rightly mentioned, I keep saying that this is, we are all living through a black swan moment. And there are, in my view, double black swan, because one, we have been hit by it. And the second black swan is nobody knows when, if at all, we are going to get out of it, and how the world is going to settle to in any state of, to borrow an economic terminology, equilibrium. But I think this is a somber, challenging, but as the cliche goes, that with every challenge comes opportunities. We are at a very unique point in history where we are meeting, and I am delighted that Anubha and Aparna and her team has put together this the webinar series discussing about what all of this might mean for the future of work, for the future of acquisition of talent, for the future of nurturing of talent, and hopefully over the 2 panels that we are going to have this evening, a very rich set of unique individuals joining us from various parts of the world. Hopefully we are going to put some sort of a boundary on over the next 3 hours on this very important discussion about what is the future of enterprise, and within that, what is the future of human society as they endeavor to create value. Thank you, Anubha, for the introduction. So Aparna, do you have slides for each of our panelists? So, or do you want me to just talk through it? I can.
You can definitely talk through it, sir, but I have a slides also, so I'll take you to the next
excellent,
slide.
excellent. So today's structure is that we are going to have two panel discussions. I'm going to lead the first one, and I'm going to let my colleague who has just joined Shiv Nadar University to lead the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Dr. Rajat Kathuria, to lead the second panel. We have 4 participants in the first panel, and I will introduce each one of them, and I will leave Rajat to introduce the rest of the panelists in panel 2, if that's okay with you. Okay, so we are delighted to have with us Mr. Darwin Rivers. Welcome, Darwin. Darwin joins us from Philippines, where he is the Senior Director, Shared Services and iSupport Worldwide Incorporated, and a founder president of Philippines HR Group, where I believe it's a community of practice that it leads in HR professionals in the Philippines. And I would we'll talk about your specific scope of business and of course the challenges of what you do in Philippines shortly. Welcome, Darwin. I'm going to keep it very simple and short introduction, because we have to manage time well. So we'd rather hear from you than read the slide. So
Professor Bibek. Thank you.
Our second panelist is, Aparna, if you move a slide, is Siddharth Bhujbal. Welcome, Siddharth. I hope you're there. Yes, you are there. If you can turn your camera on, then that'll be fabulous. So Siddharth is the head of talent acquisition, Asia Pacific at UST Global, and he operates out of Singapore. As most of you know, UST Global is a large, transformation and consulting company, and in the technology space. And Siddharth leads the talent acquisition piece there. Welcome, Siddharth. We'll get to you shortly. Our third panelist is Aparna, thank you, Mr. Pravin Dalal. Pravin is joining us from the UK, I believe, and he heads the talent acquisition piece at Vitusa, which is also works with large organizations in helping them achieve a value-added transformation that keep them relevant in the very uncertain, very volatile, very complex environment that is unfolding in front of all of us. And our fourth panelist with us, is not Anubha Bali. It is Pravin. Pravin, I thought I just introduced.
Amit.
I believe it is Amit Sawant. Okay. As Aparna struggles to find Amit Sawant, like all good management professors, I have a redundancy, so I'm gonna jump to my notes. Amit leads. He's a senior manager in human resources at RSM Kuwait. That's where he's been. I believe I was talking to him yesterday. He spent more than a decade, working with large organizations in the accounting and consulting practices, and leads a very, very complex piece of talent acquisition in an interesting space on the planet, based out of Kuwait, serving, I believe, GCC and other countries as well. Okay, so with that short introduction, gentlemen, maybe we can dive into today's discourse. It is about global hiring trends. Maybe I can start with Darwin. The format I propose is that I will, in the order that I introduced you, I will come to you and give you maybe 4 to 5 minutes to talk about the context of your business, as to what challenges and opportunities you see. And then after that introduction that each one of you would do, we can have maybe about 20 to 25 minutes in a more open conversation. And then we can keep that last maybe 10 to 15 minutes for audience question, if that's okay with you. So
Sure,
that's
Professor.
the format. And I would like to save maybe 5-7 minutes at the end of the panel discussion about the way we at Shiv Nadar University are living through this very epochal moment of transformation, and what we have been doing with respect to, we keep talking about organizational transformation, digital transformation, and how in education at a university level, at an institutional level, some of our experiences of really living through a transformation, working with students with anxiety, with faculty. We are a residential campus working with serious lives. We have lost lives in the process too. So would be happy to share with you what we are doing, and hopefully finish this whole panel with, at the end of it, probably building a bridge that we can all learn from each other, and of course walk back and forth, hopefully going forward to the cause of solving for this very, very challenging transformative journey that I'm sure we all are experiencing in whichever part of the domain that we face with. So Darwin, Philippines, tell us, what does all this pandemic mean for, tell us a little bit about what you do, what have been traditionally been your key challenges in talent acquisition, and how this pandemic is affecting you.
Sure. Thank you for that, Professor. So I'm part of an organization which is a business process outsourcing, but our model is very different from most BPOs because our model is really more of we provide infrastructure and back-end support to our clients in North America. Right now, we have significant headcount in Metro Manila and also nearby provinces. And in terms of me being part of the Philippines HR group, so basically it's an organization of HR and HR aligned professionals. Currently, we're about 254,000 across the Philippines, and what we do is this is an avenue where we exchange best practices, we provide updates to our fellow HRs, and whatever is happening in the industry, and we've also provided different training, seminars, and certification for the community. Now, with major hurdles in recruitment, wow. I started my career in HR basically in recruitment. I mean, like most of the HR professionals in the Philippines, my background is I really started in operations. So I was a call center agent, moved my way up from becoming an operations supervisor, and I made a decision to move to HR because that's where my calling is. So when I was in HR, the only way for me to be able to be part of the HR industry is to start in recruitment. Way back, this is post-pandemic, of course. Major hurdles that I would remember would be talent war was real in the late 90s up to the whole year 2000, up to the late 2000. I mean, most multinational companies would be able to get the lion's share of the talents because of they have the resources, they've invested in technology, they've invested in their brand, they have invested in offsite recruitment centers. So they're getting their talent pool in different areas in the Philippines. Now, basically the pandemic changed that. We've like what I've been seeing during the discussion that we're having in the Philippines HR group, I believe we can identify some major changes in terms of new hurdles or new struggles with regards to finding the right talent. Number one will be candidate experience. Because of the pandemic, unlike before, when you post an ad, you invite the candidate in the office, You are able to provide them the whole onboarding process. But because of the current pandemic, the Philippines has been in lockdown for 13 months. I think we're the longest. So a lot of companies needed to be agile in terms of making sure that they understand that candidate experience is very important. And merely inviting people into a virtual interview session via Zoom or whatnot would not really be a pleasant candidate experience. So what are the other things that the talent acquisition team can actually do? We've been seeing a lot of innovations in that. We've been seeing a lot of companies not only shortening the recruitment process, but also being able to be open to those people who have lost work during these times, who were part of different industries and would like to try the BPO industry. We were open to multiple avenues or resources of candidates. And I think the one of the major struggles was being able to train the recruiter in having that candidate experience during a virtual interview session, as well as train the hiring manager of what they need to see and need to, provide them a checklist of what type of candidates they would like. It's very different if you're face to face with a candidate, but having been able to just source, hire, and onboard candidates virtually is really a challenge. Another thing that we've been seeing at the Philippines HR Group, and also with my company, a lot of companies in the Philippines are changing their brand. When we say changing their brand, way back, the highlight of the brand will be stability, will be growth and whatnot. It's still the same, but there are a lot of companies also who are focused more on tweaking their brand to highlight how empathetic and caring their culture is. As of today, we have more than 1 million COVID-19 afflictions in the Philippines. About 16,000 have already died. Over the past 13 months, they've been in lockdown. So it's very important that these employers would be able to use their brand in presenting themselves as not only stable, but also caring. One of another challenges that we've seen over the past months was a lot of companies have folded down. I mean, because one way or another, they're not allowed by the government to open up, or they were given only a minimum number of headcount to be able to operate. And this is also true with the BPO industry in the Philippines. That's why most BPO companies are either on a telecommuting or work from home work arrangement, or a hybrid type of work arrangement where there are days that they go to the office and there are days that they'll be able to enjoy telecommuting, or also being able to have flexible schedules. Now, what we're seeing is that because of closures of other companies, the hiring, if way back post-pandemic, there's a lot of requisitions coming from different departments that they're very aggressive in plotting what will be the growth of their department or their business, especially from the client side. Instead of hiring, clients or hiring managers are more of looking into internal promotion. They would like to see who are the people who have been with us in the organization through this pandemic, who have thrived with us, and these are the people who will be ready to take over the next level or the next phase of their career. Is it okay to continue, Professor? I still have a few more that I've...
Yeah, go ahead. Maybe a couple more minutes.
Sure. Also, aside from the ones that I've discussed, remote work is something that not only in the Philippines, but I think globally, there were a lot of adjustments. Adjustments in onboarding people, adjustments in training people, adjustments in performance management, adjustments in managing basically the resources, the manpower resources. So providing the best training for your frontline leaders who are able to be agile and to adapt on a virtual environment, in ensuring that their direct reports are meeting the requirements or the target of their departments. That's something that we've also been been seeing in different organizations. Another thing would be basically data. The use of data right now is really very important, not only in identifying where will be your talent mapping across all Philippines, where will you be, where will you open your next site, which particular region you'll be able to get the a good pool of candidates on a specific specific skills, but also data in terms of who are the people, who are employees who have been affected by COVID-19 or have been exposed in COVID-19. More companies right now are, again, they're more empathetic and sensible, and with their current employees, what I'm seeing is they're making sure that their current employees are well supported if they have been exposed with the virus. And for those who are new hires or onboarding, we've seen a lot of companies who are now requiring people, even though they are working from home or having a hybrid work conditions, that they are required to actually get antigen test. A few more items that I have.
We can come back to that, Darwin. Thank you very much.
Sure.
That was
Thank
like
you.
pretty
Thank you,
comprehensive.
Professor.
And I'm sure you touched upon things that our other friends are also probably, I saw a lot of them nodding in I believe, agreement. I'll come to you, Pravin. You are based out of the UK. With a little bit of a background of the nature of your hiring strategy that used to be, what are the three things that the COVID and the pandemic has changed your incumbent model to what you're looking at right now and going forward?
So thanks, Vibek. So I take care of hiring for a company called Vitusa. We help our customers to build their technology and transform them into a digitalization. Okay, and if you see that, what you said correctly in the beginning, that every challenge comes with an opportunity, right? So that way, if I look at market where UK, Europe, where we are seeing more demands are coming from the customer to adopt the more automation. So if you look at the last year 2020 and 2021, so one of the services that earlier people when they used to say that they wanted to adopt 24% of automation, today according to that survey we could see that 75% people and companies and industries are now wanted to adopt the automation and change the things. At the similar way, even hiring, when it comes to hiring, we made a lot of changes in our hiring pattern also. Earlier we used to have a lot of people coming in and meeting them in person, trying to see that their gestures and how they adopt their how their adaptability to get into the environment and then fitting into our cultural values and all. But now today we need to we are compared to last year, now it is like we more than we increased almost you can say 80% to 85% our hiring is through video interviewing, and we're hiring all these people via using video interviews, and then And technology wise, if you see, there is a lot of shift is into technology. Earlier we used to have different technology, and we used to hire people like in Java and family of Java in a different way. But today, like, we need full stack engineers. Those are like, are expert in 2 3 different areas where they could be able to balance everything together. DevOps engineers. Then you could say that a lot of work is into cloud now, and then cloud demand has been increasing a lot, and there is an ample of opportunities for us. Not only external hiring, but then Vivek, today we have seen that we also need to upskill our own employees. So the investment of upskilling our own employees has been increased, and that has been not only with Virtusa but across the industry. Now people are ready to take a pay cut to upskill their knowledge, and they wanted to do more certifications. They wanted to keep themselves more agile in terms of like what Darwin is also trying to say, that adaptability is like now increasing in terms of getting more agile methodologies, and people wanted to adopt that and wanted to grab those opportunities to prove themselves and grow in the organization. At the same time, when you saw that we are also trying to make some changes, our hiring strategy, where we used to sell only laterals at on-site when it comes to UK, Europe, when customer wanted to have only experienced people. But now also they are looking at some, investment into entry-level, candidates, because they feel that they also they are very quick, they learn quickly, they can adapt, change, they can do lot many things which laterals, maybe take a lot of time to cover and adjust. So even banking customers like big banks like Lloyd's Banking, JP Morgan, all these banking are having their programs where they wanted to train a couple of entry level people and get into the organization. So those changes we could see, Vivek, in the market now due to this pandemic situation.
That's fascinating because, of course, when it comes to new age technology, given that the Generation Z, or the younger population, they are digital citizens.
Yes.
So the speed and the agility of their uptake of anything new where technology and data and visualization is concerned is at a different level, order of magnitude, as we keep seeing in the university arena, right? What used to be, and we keep saying that what we used to expect MBAs to be able to do, today we are seeing undergraduates have very smooth facility to do those. So Pravin, a quick question which could be very instructive for us is that, a lot of large organizations would have very strict, HR policies which are from an era which is before pandemic, right? In the sense that for certain roles, I'm going to only look at BTechs. For a certain role, I'm going to only look at chartered accountants, and certain roles we're going to look. Do you see that changing? How agile are the organizations in wanting to relook at the the more traditional hierarchies of criteria that are mapped to roles in their hiring strategy?
Vivek, now as I said that that the industry is changing. At the same time, we need people from a different backgrounds. So when we never thought that the doctor's appointments will be online, right? Due to this pandemic situation, that gives an opportunity for a lot of people, those who are having a background of you can say people have background from a medical side or something. They're also trying to adopt and take some technologies and trying to help organization to build some kind of applications like that. So that's a great example of like you can relate to a current world. Even if people are not having the technology background now, but if they have a domain expertise, they have opportunity to learn new skills and probably enter into the market, like in the large organizations radar. And that's a beautiful in one way we say that the world is changing. At the same time, we also need to change. So we need to change our mentality while we are hiring, because even people comes with a different background, if they are willing to learn and upskill themselves, I think if the organizations are ready to invest in them as well.
Excellent. Okay, I'll go to Siddharth. Um, welcome, Siddharth, to the panel. And you are with UST Global, and you're located in Singapore. Few years, Siddharth, I can't hear you. Can you hear me? For some reason, is it only me, or can Aparna, can you hear Siddharth?
No, Siddharth.
Siddharth, I think you're on mute, in case you can. No issue, Siddharth. Take a moment to have a look at a tech issue. I'll ask someone from my team to help you. By the time we can
help
actually,
Siddharth's tech issue to be resolved, then I will come to Amit.
Certainly, I'll help.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Vivek.
Hi, Amit. Great to see you again, and hope you're doing safe and doing well in Kuwait. So tell us a little bit about what you do, and I believe you are into accounting. I mean, supporting accounting and consulting and other digital transformation practices in the GCC countries. What does the pandemic mean from what used to be versus what you're looking at now and going forward?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Vivek. So I work for a firm called RSM. RSM is the 6th largest consulting firm in the world. I mean, you know the big fours, and there are other smaller firms. So we come on the on that particular line. We are the 6th largest. We have around 820 offices worldwide with a presence in more than 120 countries, and a combined staff strength of around 48,000. Now, if you see GCC, I'm primarily located out of Kuwait, but we have 6 offices in the GCC, mainly in Saudi, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Bahrain, and 1 office in Kuwait. The pandemic for us has been really been a challenging situation because GCC, as you know, though it's a very small part of the world, it has got its unique dynamics, and the labor market is also unique out here. In fact, if you see the labor market, only 15% are local people, whereas almost 80 to 85% are expatriates, and that's how this particular market operates. And after the pandemic hit, the borders were shut, and we were to, because all our recruitment happened from countries like India, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. We were not able to do that because the borders were shut, and there was this dearth of resources. What we did though, then we looked inwards. We tried to establish offshore business model, wherein we, along with the other RSM firms in other countries like India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, got some work agreements, done, wherein we recruited people there in those locations, and they used to work for us. So that was one of the big, I would say, a very flexible way in which we did the recruitments. Apart from that, because of the pandemic, there was this huge challenge that we had. Actually, working remotely was never a problem for the consulting industry because all of the consulting industry works from the client place, and the work is monitored perfectly well because of technology. But the challenge that we faced was to kind of get the clients to accept that they won't be coming to the client place, but working remotely. So that was one of the challenges that we face. But yeah, we did a lot of handholding with the clients. We did a lot of technology deployments at the client place so that the work wasn't affected, and the solutions were delivered as per the timelines. So that is something that we kind of spent our time with our clients in the first wave itself. Kuwait currently is going through the second wave. It's not as bad as India, but yeah, there is a lockdown in place here. There is a curfew here. But because the lessons that we learned from the first wave, we kind of built ourselves up, and things in the second wave are running pretty smoothly out here. People are used to it, and people have kind of taken to remote working and connecting with all of them remotely. So it's been a great learning experience in the first wave, and we're kind of implementing that in the second wave. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing. The other challenge that we faced was, because now we were having this offshore model, we wanted to attract the best of the talent in the local countries. And we knew the GCC market, but we were not very much conversant with, let's say, a Philippines market or India market, or maybe a Sri Lanka market. So we had to study the compensation and benefits there, and look at various ways to kind of dress up the compensation so as to attract the best talent. So all that was done. A lot of HR work, HR time went into that, looking at the best practices in India, Philippines, Bangladesh, and other countries from where we get our talent. So that was another one of the challenging times that HR had out here in the GCC. Apart from that, yeah, we did a lot of, at the time of lockdown, we did a lot of investment in online trainings as well. We signed up with Udemy, which is an online learning platform, because all the earlier trainings that we used to invest in were all physical trainings. So this was the first time that online trainings were taking place. We kind of approached online trainers and had specific training solutions given to our people, so they don't miss out on important learnings throughout this last year. So these were certain of the challenges that HR was busy in. But thanks to that first wave, we are much well prepared now, and we are very much kind of at ease, even though we are in the second wave. We think that we are better prepared, even if this thing continues for, let's say, another 2-3 months. We are okay with that, to work remotely and kind of give our best remotely. So to answer your question on the challenges and how we faced it, so yeah, learning lessons from your first time is very important, and implementing them is very important.
Right. I mean, I think, one thing that is emerging from multiple, all of your inputs is the agility required in switching to a different model of evolution of competencies, right? And therefore, I was telling you about the challenges we as a university sort of, faced in pretty much transforming from a 100% on-ground, face-to-face, residential, very immersive kind of an environment to suddenly, switching almost overnight to an environment where we go entirely online, and yet, carry on and pushing forward with the skills and the competencies and the knowledge base required to keep our graduates, empowered. And I'll come to that in a short while, because I think that's a very important piece. It's coming out kind of generically, and the role of online. I mean, see, our experience has been, and I'll talk about it a bit more later after, hopefully, Siddharth's audio has been sorted out. I'm coming to Siddharth in a second. Can you say something, Siddharth? I believe it's still not. I think, could it be? Siddharth, you see at the bottom left, there's a mute. There is a microphone button, right? And there is a top arrow. If you click on the top arrow, will you? Maybe you need to select a microphone. That is your laptop. I'm using a Mac, so. Now I'm
not sure he can hear you.
Can you hear me, Siddharth?
He's not.
Siddharth, can you type yes or no? Can you hear us, or thumbs up? Can you give thumbs up in case you are able to hear?
I think he's not hearing us.
He said yes, he can hear. The chat window, he said yes.
Okay, he's able to hear. He mentioned yes.
Yeah.
So Siddharth, I hope you must have unmuted the icon of Zoom. Maybe check in the laptop if you plug in any device, any wire. That may be the another reason. No? Okay. So keep trying, Siddharth, Professor Banerjee.
Yes, I think we'll go ahead while we. It is our loss that that we have to do without Siddharth for at least for the time being. See, what I would like to go back, and it can be a open, I'll take, rather than me directing, maybe pose the question that, when you are looking at talent, and we understand that talent means different things at different levels for which you are hiring. In the environment where you don't have the luxury of sitting down across the table, and as of course the soft skills and things like that are things that need to transform. But with respect to the harder skills, okay, whether it is their engineering or their programming skills, and there is a hypothesis that we don't lose too much fidelity by going in a completely online environment and a sort of distributed environment in trying to assess those skills. Will you share with us that, what are, first and foremost, how do you assess, what are the criteria you use to assess hard and soft skills for positions that you're looking for? And in a global hiring setting where you don't have the context of meeting face to face, how do you surmount those problems? How do you figure out how, when you for one position, when you're talking to 4 people, how do you prioritize? How do you figure out which one to make an offer to? It's an open, any one of you.
Yeah, so I would like to take this particular thing about hard skills. So we had this unique situation wherein the non-accounting freshers that we used to recruit, the business consulting guys, we usually used to give them case studies to kind of they used to come to our campus, and they used to be given these case studies. They used to be there in a conference room for 1 hour, and then we used to interview them based on the solutions that they used to provide on the case studies. Now, during this pandemic, what happened was, of course, it was imperative for them to give the case studies, but we were not able to call them at our location. So then we came out with this idea that let's make these case studies more, let's say, complex and more complicated, that even though they have the support of Google or the search engine or internet, the way they apply those thoughts in the PowerPoint or the presentation, and the way they come out with solutions is something that we could rate them on. So there was a tweak done to how do we assess these hard skills, not purely based on judging them then and there, but giving them time and looking at the solution that they are providing. And based on that, then we used to do the interviews. So yeah, we had to kind of tweak our ways to kind of gauge those skills, the hard skills. The soft skills, of course, you could get them during the Zoom calls or the interviews that we did online. But yeah, there was a real challenge for deciphering the hard skills of these candidates.
Yeah. So Vivek, from my perspective, for us to judge a hard skill for the techies, it's quite a little bit, because of technology, it is easy for us to assess them. But at the same time, when we start, categorizing them, that which one is the best one, and where we wanted to assess them on the soft skills and all, there we face a lot of challenges, because when you connect with somebody, you don't know what kind of situation that person is going through. We don't know whether his friend or his relatives or a family member is how they are going through in the last 6 or 10 months, right? And today also, we have that challenges. So we need to be a little bit more careful and a little bit more kind when we interact with them. At the same time, we need to give them an ample of opportunity to prove themselves in a right way, because sometimes we don't know what kind of situation he has gone through in the last, before. I had situations where I called a candidate in the morning and I wanted to finish the panel discussion with them. And before that, they got to know about some, some news which they don't want to hear it in a normal situation. And but they still, the people are so committed here in UK, Europe, that when once they give the time, they are actually on the time and they're available. sometimes I need to get into the call, understand the situation. Some of these incidents, where we have to cancel the schedules after I speak to them for 5-10 minutes, and I've given them an opportunity to settle down and then probably assess them again. So in a way, the things changed, because earlier it was like, it's a give and take relationship in the industry, right? So we need to also understand their situation, and likewise we need them, they need us. So that it's a difference which we and I personally I felt in the last couple of months.
Yeah, actually, just to add to that, excellent point, Praveen, because even I've seen in our environment, the HR leaders have become a slight more empathetic than they were earlier. So it has brought that human side of HR to the forefront, wherein the HR is telling the business that, look, we need to give people time. Look, we need to reschedule this because whatever about the situations that currently are going on in the world. So yeah, that's playing a HR is playing a big role there to kind of make the candidates comfortable, making them realize that no, your family comes first, and we will be there for you later. So that's very important.
Darwin, would you like to?
Sure. In our own setting, I think what's really important is being able to understand those non-negotiable for the client or for the hiring managers are there. If they're looking for a specific skill, if they're looking for a specific knowledge of technology, then we partner with them, have an in-depth calibration meeting with our clients and with our hiring managers to understand the level of or the criticality of the role, and being able to really have the mindset of the client and the mindset of the hiring manager. Second would be, this is where the ingenuity of the sourcing or the recruitment comes in. I mean, you do not base your judgment based on paper, but also you try to deep dive on what is the background of this person. I mean, I've been seeing recruiters right now that is really actively doing background investigations, reaching out to their networks, understanding what is the culture or the behavior that this particular candidate has, and then well, at the end of the day, it's technology that plays a big part of it. And then next would be in terms of soft skills, because soft skills is something that can be taught, can be learned. But the how they would stay and how we will be able to get the best out of the candidate to be part of the organization is what really matters for us.
Okay. Is I see Siddharth logged out and logged back in. So
yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Yes,
finally. Yes.
Okay, sorry about the glitch.
Okay, great to have you with us. And Siddharth, you are with UST Global.
Yes.
And you are based out of Singapore, right?
That's correct, Vivek.
Yeah, so I happened to visit your beautiful campus in, I believe, Trivandrum.
Oh yeah, that's a real good campus, I think.
A lovely campus once upon a time. And I used to, I took several sessions for your leadership team over there, but that was one phase of my life. So Siddharth, I believe there has been some data that Singapore is going to see a boom by way of hiring requirements. So much so that I'm told some upside of about 40% in just the year 2021.
That's right.
Now that's a unique challenge for you in the sense that in an already very competitive market for talent. How do you what are you planning? What are your plans to sort of respond to that hiring boom?
Yeah, I think this is kind of a very constant challenge across Singapore, if you really can. Singapore is just one part of it. I think most of the countries who have been dependent on the workforce, or foreign workforce for that matter, is going through this challenge pretty much at a different pace. It's just that the pace is different. So if you really see with the pandemic impact, I think a lot of foreign workforce had to kind of return, which is kind of contributing additionally to this challenge. As an employer, I think the basic trends that we are seeing today, the government has kind of coming up with a lot of programs. If you have possibly read uh, one of the inputs that I can share is around 76,000 odd professionals were employed through different programs which were kind of run by the government, the bodies like IMDA and then the workforce SG. So I think the government is playing a very active role. Besides that, the way we see the change coming in is you're dealing with a different set of talent here. So there are two set of talents. One is the millennial talent, which is again very limited. The fresh grads that we are talking about, and there is not really much talent available in that space. If you see the landscape, how it is divided in Singapore, the overall piece or the pie of these professionals, roughly around 41% of the population of this 3.5 odd million workforce in Singapore, which includes local as well expats or foreign workers. Most of them are 15 plus years experience, close to 41 percentile of that. So it requires a different approach all put together versus dealing with the youth, I would say. Uh, there are a lot of organizations, the governments are funding the organizations in terms of anchoring some of these training programs, shouldering the cost and so on. So that's kind of really coming very handy. And the anticipated jobs that we were supposed to fulfill as per the target that Singapore had, or the workforce Singapore had, was around 40%, wherein we achieved close to 76% as a country. So talent attraction perspective, if you really ask me, the alignment, the work-life balance due to the pandemic and the health insurance benefits, for example, remain a pretty area of consideration for candidates. Uh, if you see the overall landscape of the employers, you kind of bifurcate more or less Singapore into two, three different categories. You have the top players which are into uh, products and platform sort of companies. Second, you have the leading banks, and third, you have the typical IT consulting and services sort of organizations. So we have seen that evolution wherein money is the not only factor; it is definitely one of the factors. But with this surge in demand and the limited talent, we also see that there are challenges which we foresee coming in the wage inflation. So the wage inflation is expected to possibly rise to up to around 15% or so, as per what I see as a TA professional, and we are already seeing that, experiencing that when attracting talent. So there is a need, and I think most of the companies are adopting very flexi remote work sort of options, which is helping. One side of the fact, which possibly not alone for Singapore, but overall globally, if I look at it, we are talking about remote work, and that kind of open up quite a lot of avenues and talent pools uh, for uh, uh, for us to kind of attract talent. So the base gets widened that way, and typically from an employer standpoint, we are seeing that shift coming from the customers as well, wherein they are more inclined and more flexible towards adopting or giving that flexibility to have people work remotely. I think that kind of eases down a lot of pressure on us as a function. But the way I look at it in terms of the future workforce transforming, and then the typically the remote jobs that kind of are going to take over, there are quite a lot of challenges which would come with that. So we predominantly have a very good overview in terms of how it was even when the pandemic kind of kicked off. I think we were pretty much ahead of the curve. So for us, what has been a success story would be we were kind of pretty proactive in terms of planning our deliverables. We were very proactive in terms of aligning with our businesses in terms of how the industry is evolving, how the pandemic is going to impact, and we proactively identified some of these hiring pockets or talents that we wanted to kind of really attract talent from. So yeah, Vivek. So all in all, I think compensation definitely is possibly on the list. I would say second or third category. But I think the alignment with the jobs which people are taking when they actually get upskilled, especially, and then they have this question that okay, what happens if after I am trained? The technology moves very fast as compared to the adoption. I mean, we have seen that in the era of when we replace typewriters with computers, and you have gone through the same phase when bankers had to kind of really go through a lot of trainings to get used to what computer is and how to operate it. So I think it's a catch-22 situation, but I think fortunately we are blessed with technology, and that infrastructure kind of really helps us overcome quite a lot of them, if not all the challenges that we face today. So a TA role definitely is there, but I would say that as a part of HR, there are multiple teams that kind of going to really anchor this change. And I think you're talking about the agility. I think adding on to that, I would possibly say, as an organization, it is very important to have a very efficient change management plan in place. Agility is important, but if you don't have the level of maturity as an organization to implement and utilize that change with the right audience, I think it's like you're trying to have a not so strong foundation, but you still want to kind of capitalize on it and have a multi-story building, right? So yeah, these are the key factors that I would say have helped us.
Excellent. Let me come to this issue. Pardon me if it's a little bit theoretical, but this issue of culture, which is very central to organizational functioning. And when we talk about HR, especially hiring, onboarding, one, of course, other than skills and knowledge set and competencies, and I believe there used to be a term used called attitude that we all HR professionals would assess. One of the things that we would always try to find a good fit for from among the candidates and the incumbent organization is some sort of a cultural fit. Now, culture is one of those problematic words. I believe it means different things to different people. But for a moment, if we believe, if you allow me the freedom to define culture as basically a set of observed behavior, right? I mean, both overt as well as covert, right? I mean, both implicit as well as tacit, as well as explicit, right? So now I think this whole work from home model, the fact that we are not seeing people across the coffee counters, we are not bumping into people in the pantries, we are not walking the shop floor or whatever you're work for, to me posits a very interesting question on whether the talent needs to adjust to a culture or the organization needs to adjust to a different culture of the new workforce. Is this a good question? Is this something that is, that your internal or even external clients are grappling with as to this whole, I mean, my hypothesis would be that this cultural fit would probably require a far more complex and a far more empathetic and a far more researched point of view than perhaps the more traditional ones. If you are wearing a blue tie or a red tie, or if you're you know what I mean, if your jacket is too tight or too loose. Any one of you?
So I would like to take this question on culture, because at RSM we have a set of values that we define RSM in by those set of values. So those values are excellence, integrity, teamwork, respect, and stewardship. Stewardship meaning delivering better results for our clients and improving by developing our people, promoting diversity, building our brand, and supporting our community. So so that's something which is very core to RSM. So even our selection process, when we are looking for this so-called cultural fit, all the questions that we pose a candidate or we ask a candidate revolve around these values. So at that time itself, when you're taking a candidate in, you kind of make sure that these values are ingrained in him. And also over a course of onboarding process, when we have the orientation program, the buddy program, then we have this 3-month feedback program for the new joiners. These values are tested, through their feedback. So, so the whole idea is for people to come at a, at a particular common ground, which is defined by these values. And then I think so the organization need not tweak its culture through with changing times, but it's more of it should stand the test of time. But having said that, we do feel a need to kind of revisit these values, over a period of time, maybe 2 years or 3 years, because world is changing fast, and we do feel a need to kind of relook at these values. So we do have these workshops with the top leadership once in 3 years to relook at the values, and then again, tweaking our processes along with the definition of new values if they come in.
Pravin?
Yeah, so Vivek, the culture is changing, and that is giving an opportunity for a lot of different patterns. So last year it was like, work from home was the last priority for each one of us, in the organization. Today it is a topmost priority. Even you look at the, I am more like talking about diversity. When you look at the diversity also, the change is coming. The specifically, if you look at the working women now, they have flexibility. They can manage a lot of other things, and then probably they put more efforts into work as well. So we have seen a lot of working women working from home. The productivity is increased in the last couple of months, because then they could able to balance many things, and then at the same time they are contributing towards the organization growth. Though we are not at coffee table, we are not in the pantry, we are not in the area where we can relax ourselves. But then I think our HR organization is also trying to put a lot of efforts to make sure that their employees are comfortable. They have a little bit more breathing when they are into stress environments. They are trying to give them a lot of breaks, and then there are some activities which we never used to do in the office. Now they're enforcing enforcing in the sense they are trying to adopt that kind of activities in sessions and in regular intervals. And I think, yes, it's both organization also adopting the new way, and even employees are also now understand that, they need to, if they need to survive and grow in this environment, they're also trying to adjust with the environment and adopting the new normal. So, good.
Yeah, Siddharth, would you like to take a stab at it?
Yeah, I think Praveen and Amit really covered it well, and I think it's like a convention way of looking at things versus some of the changes which are coming in a pretty subtle manner, and some of those by choice or by force, right? So as Praveen was indicating towards the remote work, that kind of comes with a lot of changes, and it's not only about culture. Culture is one aspect of it, but if you really look at this from a broader perspective, again, it kind of brings a lot of opportunities as well. You talk about remote work, for example, different countries follow different rules, regulations. There is a lot of scope in that area wherein new jobs could be created. There are a lot of different cultural nuances which will come into play, which means that HR from that perspective will have a very important role to play, because you need to possibly have roles into HR which are more specialized, focused on multicultural sort of employee engagement, and again virtually if the pandemic lasts for long, right? So culture, I would say, is one aspect, but the way we look at things, I think the definition of culture itself is going to change. The parameters of the cultural nuances in a typical employment is kind of going to change. That would be my input, Vivek.
How is this machine learning and automation and artificial intelligence applications changing the way you recruit people, if at all? Is it are they powering your ways in which you try to solve your problems? Is it relevant in your context at all?
Absolutely, I think it's very important, and I think I look at it more from enhancement and the technology, the way we kind of use to kind of do things differently. AI definitely is improving, especially the chatbots, which is kind of helping a lot in terms of increasing the productivity for the teams who are actually on the ground. Uh, it's kind of reducing the time. It's enhancing the candidate experience. One recruiter, for example, managing 100 candidates at a time when they apply for a job, it may not be necessary every candidate gets that attention. But with AI, you can actually make that possible, and then the candidate experience really becomes positive. Uh, Most importantly, I think AI, the biggest advantage I personally feel is that it has kind of help in a lot of unbiased evaluations. Unconscious bias evaluations is something which we normally talk about, right, in the hiring process. And I think with the chatbots, that's something which at a large extent is taken care. Even though I feel it's kind of a great differentiator, but I still feel that AI from that perspective is not really that matured to kind of be implemented at a pretty end-to-end sort of process. I mean, you've got certain tools right from job advertisements that we post like Texto and so on, which can actually make your ordinary recruiter, craft a very appealing job description, for example. And I would say AI up until the candidate screening, that's the stage I think it's kind of really made a difference. If you really ask me, there was a survey which was conducted by LinkedIn some time back, and over 90% of the respondents did applicants did say that they still want to listen from a recruiter. So a human interaction in a talent acquisition or a hiring process is very important, and especially you hire for leadership roles, especially where you really want to kind of have some social influencing sort of skills which are helpful for your businesses. I think that's where some bit of AI will make a lot of difference. There are a lot of other tools which are coming in, and those are kind of really going to get integrated with all these things. But AI alone is kind of not one thing. I mean, you talk about AI, there are conventional AI. It's not about only text, but now we are talking about voice-based AI where national NLP is used.
Yep.
And then that's something which is upcoming and growing as a advanced tool, I would say. But I would really see the revolutionary change which would come into recruiting possibly would be through robotics as a personal view. I think it's just a visualization. I sometimes think about it, and then I've got to hire maybe uh, 10 recruiters in 10 different geographies. What if I have a robot who can speak 10 languages?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, actually, you gave me a segue into Siddharth. Sorry to cut you, but we are running against time. But you know what? That was going to be another question that any of you could take. That if you look at a lot of our hiring challenges, especially in the outsourcing and back end processes, etc. There was a language dependency, right? So I mean, India happened, Philippines happened. Part of the major reason was because Indians and Filipinos happened to get schooled in English, and therefore so that there was a perceived advantage that English, the very fact that we had a large population of English speaking people, brought to the table and creating certain dynamics. Now, would you foresee going forward question is to any one of you, that with so many AI, ML tools, NLP tools, etc., that language, I mean, hiring will become more language agnostic, and therefore you will cast your net in places that you had not cast before by way of your talent search. Yeah, Darwin, you want to come in?
Sure, and let me take a stab on that, Professor. I think here in the Philippines, using AI and using robotics in terms of hiring and training has just been starting. Although I've seen a lot of multinational companies who've already started it. We've seen programs that would assess not only the language, but also how the candidates the candidate's facial expression during the interview, his or her way of writing, the logic of how he or she answers questions. I believe that there's a value in using technology, and this is really more of to being able to identify who are those who meet the minimum standard of the organization. But I would also agree with Siddharth that at the end of the day, human interaction can never be replaced by machines or by computers. That's the reason why the business partnership model has been very successful throughout the past years, is because HRBPs understand the business. HRBPs understand the culture of the business that they support. And as we know, when we say culture, it always follows. It's always dictated by the leaders. And over the past 2 decades, this is a fact. Every company would say that we have a very different culture. We have a very fine mission, vision, goals, and whatnot. But I believe that there's an overall culture that the company strives to achieve, but that being able to implement it through the leadership, to the different branches, to the different departments, to the different managers, is something that HR should be partnering with the business leaders to ensure that they're aligned in terms of culture, because it's basically driven by the leaders of that particular group. And going back to AI and robotics, yes, there is value, but I still believe that it's an opportunity for more HRs throughout the world to ensure that we be more, our jobs is not at stake. I think it's really more of, there are certain jobs that will be replaced by machines and by robotics, but there are new opportunities that requires logic, that requires human intervention, that requires interaction with candidates. And again, since Siddharth was able to mention this earlier, when you're hiring a key person in your organization, you cannot just give all the process to AI and robotics, because your top leaders would need to know, is this person something that I would be able to trust? And is this person aligned to the dreams and goals of my organization?
Interesting. Well, I've been so engrossed. Sorry, Pravin, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, AI and machine learning, they will help us to reduce the time. They will help us to speed up the hiring process. But what is it said by Siddharth and Darwin is that human touch is always important. And without that, we will not complete the hiring, certainly. Over to you, Vivek.
So it's going to help us to do our jobs better, but they're not going to replace us.
Absolutely.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. So I believe I've been so engrossed in hogging all the questions for you that I've been overlooking the fact that there are a few questions from the audience. If I could pose some of them, and let me take one straight away, which is directly proportional to what we have just been discussing. That what is the scope of HR professionals globally? For those who are studying, even, whether they're thinking about what to make of their own career, how do you see HR professionals prospect in the current times and going forward globally? Anyone?
Can I start with that, Professor?
Yeah,
Sure. I think the expectations is that yes, there are certain skills that and knowledge that you are required to have to be able to be a competent HR professional. But at the end of the day, what's really important is your ability to partner with the business, understanding the business, how it really works, and understanding how your leaders think. If you understand how your leaders think and understand how the people in the organization you're able to see trends in terms of behavior, in terms of what in terms of attrition, hiring, stuff like that. If you're seeing trends and be able to understand that, then I think that's the most important thing. Strategic business partnership is still very important.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. Amit?
Just to add to that, I would like to say this pandemic has actually brought HR to the forefront because all the BCP task force that we have had somehow HR was part of it but never got involved much into it. But during the pandemic, they had to put HR in the forefront because it was all about communication with the employees. It was all about how do we now reposition ourselves in the market and get the best of talent. It was, HR became the quintessential, spoke in the entire wheel of the organization. So I think so. Things are really bright for HR, even for the current batch of MBA grads. They can go in for HR, and definitely HR will in future will be a bigger role player in the organization, if not already.
Can't agree more with you, Amit. I think, really, I think normally it's observed that, HR as a function is always put at a backseat. But I think with this pandemic, the amount of work that HR has put in terms of engaging with the existing employees, ensuring their well-being, coming up with, different guidelines, benefit programs, engagement models, and so on. I think it's evolving to my understanding, and I think with this pandemic, I think there are a lot of different ways where this job will turn out to be more meaningful and more rewarding. That's how I look at it.
Terrific. There's another question from Sandeep Raina, and the question goes as hiring people is going to be different post-pandemic. What do you think about the changes in hiring of people in hospitality, tourism, and retail merchandising?
I'll take that question. I think it's no more about the industry. I think more or less, if you really see the way hiring is evolving, there have been patterns wherein organizations with a specific mandate have been very adamant traditionally to kind of look at a workforce which comes from a specific background. But, as I was pointing about two words, whether it's a choice or by force, right? In certain geographies, we really don't have an option but to really act on it now. And when you have to act on it now, you have to be really open in terms of nurturing that talent. Maybe you have to change your evaluation parameters. Maybe you have to relook your upskilling programs, the way they are designed. Maybe you have to see a better and more effective ways to kind of bring up talent up to speed. But to answer that question straight, I think it's no more about industry, even if you see about organizations. Ashish is here, and Capgemini recently entered or expanded their business in the VLSI space, typically known as a very typical IT services. So it's not about employee alone, but even if you look at the industry or the company, they are diversifying. And what that means is that there is a flexibility to sustain, because currently one thing that every organization is trying to do is to sustain through this phase. And in a lot of different demographies or geographies, if you really see, there are a lot of government aided fundings which are available to kind of support the organizations financially so that the talent is nurtured internally. There is a likely possibility, and we are seeing that some of the businesses which are mobile would possibly also get decentralized. Because it's impacting directly to the economy of the country when you really have everything shut. So with mobility completely stopped, a lot of industries impacting, decentralization in some sectors will happen. Diversity, of course, it's a need for majority of the countries, and that kind of opens up a lot of avenues for talent across multiple streams. And we have been hiring people as well, and we have kind of recruited people, changing our processes at times, which will kind of help us bring it. Yeah.
Okay. I guess we are kind of running out of time, and maybe this could be the last question that the panel could attempt. There's a question from Gayatri Hasabnis, and she asks, what are the employee engagement activities that you deliver through online mode? I mean, of course, we are all, we are all experiencing a lot of online fatigue and we often talk about death by Zoom, death by, by MS Teams, etc. How do you look at engaging with employees in this environment of desolation?
So just to take that question about, how we did, because we had a huge budget for employee engagement activities, and suddenly in the pandemic, that entire budget was just put in cold storage. But yeah, we did a lot of activities in terms of having, we came up with monthly quizzes. We did a lot of sessions, which were informal sessions about, yoga series, fitness series, and stuff like that, wherein it got a good response from people. And also one important thing that we did was we organized some, some conversations with eminent personalities all across the globe that we could do, because RSM being present in almost all parts of the world, we could get some eminent speakers on board, and that was a hugely successful 3-day sessions that we had with people all across. One of the eminent speakers was Tony Blair. Some of the Olympic winners were there on the session, and what they gave were this positive vibes about how the pandemic shouldn't affect them mentally, and how they should look forward for post-pandemic world and things like that. So that also kind of helped. So yeah, we need to put in those positive assurances to people to make them know that, yeah, I mean, there is a post-pandemic world, and there is this growth that we are envisaging. So those messages were critical during these times.
Excellent. It's 6:23 now, so I can already see Anubha and her team giving me the glares to probably bring the shutter down to this terrific conversation. Just as I said that, I would like to reserve the last 5 to 7 minutes, I'll make it 3 minutes to talk about some of the transformations that as a university, that we have been living through. Of course, last year around this time, just a little, back in March when the first wave hit India, as you know, Shiv Nadar University is just been accorded the Institution of Eminence status, which is exceedingly important, and we are very proud of that, that we are only one of 8 private universities and one of only 20 any universities in the country to have been bestowed with that honor and a distinction. And we are a fully residential university where and it's a comprehensive university, much in the North American style, that we have 4 schools. There's a School of Engineering, there's a School of Management and Entrepreneurship, there is a School of Humanities and Social Sciences, and there is a School of Natural Sciences and Mathematics. And we also have a 5th entity called the Academy of Continuing Education. And it was music to my ears that you're talking about, the fact that the whole piece on online training and continuous upgradation of skills, knowledge, and perspective set is part of this hiring transformation story from at least what I heard from most of you. So we almost overnight, we switched. It was like a categorical on-off switch. It wasn't a continuum. It was an on-off switch. We closed the campus. We went sort of overnight online. Of course, fast forward to 1 year, we have learned a lot, much like you have, in the sense that switching online is not simply taking what we were doing face-to-face in a classroom or in a workshop, in a Zoom, where I can share my screen and, of course, do things live. But it was a massive challenge for the entire university fabric to, from the faculty to the staff to the technology team, and so on and so forth, and of course the students to suddenly make this switch. But we have learned a lot that online is simply not taking on ground online. It is a completely different skill set. It requires different kind of technologies. It requires different kind of strategies to engage. Much like Amit, you talked about engaging with various ways that you are doing. But in the whole agenda for learning and development on a continuing basis, we have learned pretty well that what this university is trying to aim for is to create meta learners. What are meta learners? I believe most of you from computer science would probably know the concept that today you talked about. Today I can teach people Java, and today I can teach people Python and Tableau and so on and so forth. But almost one can guarantee in a couple of years, those tools will become obsolete. And therefore, the best thing that a university can provide is to help people become self-learners. How can they unlearn and learn as a matter of their training? Because these tools will keep on evolving, and this learning agenda also needs to keep on continuously evolving. So in that, we are again looking. We've been hit by the second wave, and throughout I've been trying to summarize, and I looked at some of these terms that you have mentioned. Empathy, that HR, as you said, that will empathy seems to be coming smack at the center of the strategic success for HR, in the sense that it is not just a nice thing to do, but there is no other option, right? So the way the whole community transformed, and today, even when it comes to a very emergent situation where people are falling sick, people's loved ones, near and dear ones, require hospitalization and so on and so forth. So pretty much like I'm sure, like your organizations, Shiv Nadar University has also is going through a process of transformation into actually impacting lives physically by way of delivering medical care, even oxygen cylinders, getting people hospitalized, and getting people doctor access and emergent healthcare. So this whole aspect of caring and empathy to be honest with you, in our professional worlds, often I do believe that we used to sort of talk about it, but kind of keep it on the sides, has come in the center of the discourse. And in that context, what we are trying to do is to form a trifecta of what we bring to the table for our students. And the trifecta is that of knowledge, what I call the know, do, be trifecta, right? So you need to have knowledge, but those knowledge is not enough if you are not translating them into action. So you need to be acting on the knowledge. And the third piece is, of course, being, as to, you can't be a ruthless mercenary in the face of either a challenge or an opportunity. You need to have an emergency. You need to have an empathy to really, be that leader, be that change agent, or be that, as Gandhi had said, right? Be the change. If you are not, then all of that knowledge and even your ability to write beautiful codes and solve, create, UX or whatever applications that you're building are not going to take you too far, right? And of course, the Academy of Continuing Education piece, the whole issue of some of you talked about empowering your or even resourcing your employees to sign up for Coursera or Udemy or Udacity courses, etc. That's again a different piece, as you all know, that the level of their dropout. One thing is to sign up for it. The other thing is to learn from it. And actually, that requires a completely different kind of execution of the whole, continuum of, value or transformative education. And we are trying to build that. The School of Management and Entrepreneurship, I see Rajat coming on board, works with every other school. One of the advantages, I said, in Shiv Nadar University is that it's a comprehensive university. When I was teaching at IIM Ahmedabad, all we had was a management department. It was a standalone management school. But here, the fact that we have a comprehensive ecosystem where, the School of Engineering, the technology, mathematics, computation, hopefully going forward, even cognition, neurosciences, all of them can come together to really create, programs, and most importantly, talent of a very, very distinguished type, where they are enterprising, they are digitally savvy, because that's where the world is going. And most importantly, they are research oriented. I think some of you mentioned about research. This whole aspect of trying to solve for unstructured problems, complex unstructured problems, as opposed to taking a bunch of exams with very structured questions that have structured answers. I think somebody mentioned that, I think, was it Amit who mentioned that you try to come out with more complex, unstructured things that they simply can't refer to a book or mug up something and just regurgitate on this thing. So we are, so that's what we are trying to do. And I'm really delighted that you all could give us your valuable time. And hopefully with this webinar, we are going to build a bridge between, the consumers of talent and the producers of talent to come together in a manner that is going to, create value for, society at large. And we are, as I said, tremendously challenging times, but I cannot stop but being optimistic about the opportunities that every challenge, and especially this challenge, throws up. So thank you very much, Pravin. Thank you very much, Amit, Darwin, and Siddharth. Really appreciate your time. I know it's different, inconvenient or inconvenient times in different parts of the globe that you're in. And of course, a big thank you to the next panel, who I see Ashish was here all throughout with his camera on, listening to our conversation. I'm sure Rajat is here, and you're going to take this conversation forward in the next panel. So with that, I would turn it over to Anubha.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you. Thank you, Amit, Siddharth, Darwin, and Pravin. It's always difficult to speak after Vivek. He's so extraordinarily gifted in bringing conversations together and putting everybody's thoughts into one cohesive discussion. To take this forward for the next panel, whilst I've been listening to all of you speak and I've been listening to Vivek bring this conversation together, we've spoken about some aspects of HR. But as we are struggling through this pandemic, everybody who's leading a team of people will realize that there are some people who are heroes, who lead organizations to achieve. I myself have a large team, and some of them today, some of them are very young. They are stepping completely out of their comfort zones, not only managing their area of work, their KRAs, ensuring that their targets are achieved, but they are also taking the challenge which the organization, the country, and people around them have. Those are the people who in good times help an organization become great. It's not the people who are regular day-of-the-mill, great, fantastic workers, but people who look at all other aspects of an organization, who have empathy for fellow colleagues, who have an ability to understand what other people are going through, rise above, take a larger goal, and many other such qualities.